do me wrong.
Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of Power Hour for 2026. Joining me as always from the United Kingdom, the one and only fantastic Giles Tigerific Thomas. Giles, I want to talk about how we can make bodybuilding better. Not make bodybuilding great again. That sounds too much like the Trump slogan, but things we could improve on in the industry and the sport just to make everything better. Instead of just bitching and moaning, I want to try to come up with some ideas how to actually improve the situation. So let's start with one that we both are, it's very near and dear to our hearts, this topic.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Well, that's right. Prospero is on the level. So we've talked about this many times, but this is something I really would love to see with the athletes and their outlook toward the people in the media, because these two knuckleheads you guys are looking at right now. Criticism is not hate. When Giles and I talk about you and your physique and what could be better, we're actually trying to help you improve and be the best you, because we want the best for you. Hard to believe, isn't it? But we actually genuinely love the sport. We love the athletes, and we want to make it better. Correct, Giles?
100% correct, Ronster.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the word hater has become just so overused. It's such a cliche now that some guys, if say you're looking at you're doing a play-by-play at a contest, and you happen to think one guy is going to beat another guy, the guy who you think is going to be beaten is going to be very angry with you in many cases and call you a hater when we're just expressing what we see. I mean, I hate to keep going back to Martin, but Fouad Abiad, who was his former sponsor with Hostile Nutrition, he made a post a few weeks ago questioning, why Martin would be upset with him, because Martin made a post about Fouad never believed in me because Fouad had him predicted as 5th place at the Olympia, and Fouad says, I made my predictions based on what I know about the sport and the physiques and the track record of everybody, and in the end, he did take 5th. So he was actually dead on. Had he compromised his integrity as a journalist, as a critic, and said, I think Martin's going to win, it would have been great for Martin's ego, but it would have destroyed his integrity doing what he does. And, that's important. We have to say what we think and what we believe, whether people are going to love us for it or they're going to be angry with us. It's just the way it is.
Yes. Sorry, what was the question?
Oh, God, there was no question. I want to I guess we could probably move on pretty quickly from this one. But
Firstly, Ron, I want to pull you up on the facts. This is something else. Something I actually, over the last few months, basically, I said that I personally, if you want to sit down and break it down, there is a big difference between being critical and making criticism and giving critique. I think the two are like polar opposites. Critique is, like you said, it's about how you can allow somebody to be even better. Like I've had guys approach me over the years, amateurs, pros, and they'll say, okay, Giles, I won that show, but how can I be better? Critique me. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like I've said it many, many times, apart from the 1998 Arnold Classic version of Flex Wheeler, literally where it's almost like, how the hell do I critique this? How can I say, okay, Flex, if you want to look even better than this is what you need to do. It's one of those real toughies. But every bodybuilding is a sport of progression, meaning the top of the mountain is never ever reached. Like when, say Ronnie looked at himself and in the first Olympia in 1998 and said, okay, I'm 248 here. I think I'm good to go. I think I'm perfect.
Yeah.
He ended up becoming 296 in 2004. He ended up becoming bigger and heavier. And the thing is though, bodybuilding is ironic that because it's bodybuilding, but sometimes necessarily being heavier and bigger isn't always better. Like how many times we look at physiques and go, well, even Ronnie says my favorite physique was the 247, 248 version in 1998, but he brought, a dozen other packages pretty much, give or take on, different. It's a subjective. So it's some people think bigger is always better. Like Nick Walker, he thought 10 pounds bigger at the Olympiads, arguably, say, for example, I don't know if it's true or not. Let's not get caught up. Yeah. Was that a better bodybuilder than, and arguably was probably in even better condition at the Olympia, I think. Like, was that a better version? Or, Or was it better when he was lighter? Oh, 2021 when he was, what, 250, which is, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, whatever pounds lighter. Yeah. Was that a better version? Because it is a subjective sport. It is, you know, like some people prefer like like say people say, okay, Flex Wheeler, 1993 Arnold Classic, 218. No, that was the best version. Yeah. Some say, no, the 1999 258 British Grand Prix version is better. So there's, you know, that's 40 pounds. That's a lot of muscle. So with bodybuilding, it's about sort of knowing what is the best version of your physique and how you can be better. Like, okay, let's talk about say Hadi. Say Hadi had come to me after the 2021 Olympia and said, "Oh, Giles, I'm so gutted. I just brought a fantastic package there. I feel like I was better conditioned than the top 3 guys. How could I come back next year and win?" Which is exactly what he did. I would have said, well, mate, you know, this needs to be fixed. You need to address that. You know, this is how you take steps to avoid it. Speak to Hani. Maybe you'll stop the shots a month out or 6 weeks out, or maybe just avoid the shoulders altogether. Do deepen the glute. Make sure it's injected on a part where the trunks kind of cover the glutes. You know, as an example, those kinds of things where you can say to someone, okay, you need to be bigger. See, Nick Walker came to me now and said, Charles, come on, how do I win the Arnold Classic, mate? How do I get my best chance? What can I do with the time I've got? I would have said, right, mate, you need to focus on the waist. You need to maybe try and bring the chest up. So there's ways that you can try and balance that out so it matches your shoulders and arms. Your back's fantastic. It's good to go. You need to bring the quads up, you know, from the front. So we need to take steps to do stuff like that. Because the thing is, it's amazing what can actually be done with the body. Like, I know I keep referring back to Rulli in 2012, 2013, when he ruined the waistline. You know, like, I constantly see stuff that I think sometimes in the sport is unachievable, like Urs coming in as an open. I didn't see that happening with what, you know, I didn't see that happening. Oh, they are nice, nice example. And obviously what I saw with Rulli do with his waistline in 2016, I mean, it was stood right in front of me. I couldn't believe it. You know, so there's amazing things that can be done with the body that aren't just about, you know, it's not just about, so basically, you know, I mean, I remember Flex Lewis when he turned pro in 2007, he was very bottom heavy. So he decided to really back off on the legs and then just focus on the upper body. And then when he started competing as a 202, it almost looked like he was upper body heavy. I remember when he did one of the Tim Gardner shows, I was thinking, bloody hell, he's gone the other way now. It's like his upper body is actually, you know, his lower body needs to catch up again. And then the year he won it in 2012, I remember, because he came back and it just like finally the delts were nice and big, the waist was small, the legs looked like they matched perfectly in proportion with his upper body, and he got it right. Look what Ramy did in 2020. Like, I always thought Ramy, I had by that point given up on Ramy to be any chance of, I thought, okay, he's not only is he not going to win the Olympia, I'm not saying not, but it's looking more and more unlikely, where we all thought for years, this is the guy that if he gets it right, holds it all together. We know the bodybuilders that once they do those one or two, you know, once they make those adjustments, you know that, and if they can do it and achieve it, you know that everyone's in trouble.
Right.
And then 2020, he did it, and everything kind of just fell into place. You know, he because it's also knowing how to improve your physique. Like Ramy had to move up. He dropped, what, 10, 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Who else? Sean Roden, 252 to 238 when he won it in 2018. Yeah. It wasn't a matter of like, got to get bigger, got to get 10 pounds bigger, got to put more muscle on, got to get another inch on my arms, got to get 3 inches off my waist, like Rulli thought. So every single physique has different things that they need to do to improve. And it's not always about coming bigger and better. And, you know, we've seen it when guys have come in lighter, you know, Ramy, like just said there, Ramy, Roden, any other examples?
I mean, if you think back to what we consider the best looks for specific athletes, I prefer that smaller, the lighter Flex Wheeler. I prefer the lighter Ronnie Coleman. Jay Cutler, when he took second to Ronnie that year, many years before he started winning, that was one of my favorites. Was that 2002? That was one of my Jay Cutler in 2001 when he took second to Ronnie.
Oh, yeah. See, yeah.
That was a lighter. And when Jay came back to win the title in 2009, when Hani coached him, he was significantly lighter than he had been for years.
I'm sure I only found that out or was reminded of that, I think, last year. Because I always, because when he walked out, I mean, I didn't think that was, there's another time when I just thought that look wasn't possible, you know? I just, it was drastically different. But then you find out that he was even lighter. That kind of shit blows my mind, because as you know, bodybuilding, it is an illusion. And sometimes, I mean, how many times, before the 202 and the Classic came along, we saw how many pros where they would be, as amateurs, they look sensational winning weight classes, middleweights, light heavyweights, and then they never really got to turn pro. And then somehow they get their pro card, and then they come back and you look them on stage and you're like, what happened? I'm like, oh, I'm 20 pounds heavy. I'm 18 pounds heavy. And you're like, everything about your physique is now gone to shit.
Yeah.
So, and then thankfully, things like the 202 and the 212 and the Classic came along, and it allowed those physiques to kind of, not chase each other. So, so it's funny, isn't it? So every I think that's a good thing about having a good coach or good people around you to say, mate, like say, I think now, I'll be honest, if Andrew Jacked can put on 6 to 8 pound of muscle, keeps going on the right places, bring the condition, the legs don't flatten out in those last few days, I think that's a Mr. Olympia. I think he'd be very, very tough to beat. Like that version of him there, if his quads were just a tiny bit drier, I think that would have won the Olympia last year.
Yeah, I mean, it was an improvement. I just before I forget to say it, I changed, because of what you said, I changed criticism to critique, because I do see the distinction. Nice. Criticism is basically just shitting on people.
Yeah, and there's tons of that also. To be honest, though, I think it's getting so much now where all media now is going through social media. Everyone has a voice. Everyone has a platform. Like you open up a magazine, there's like, say there's all the columnists, Bob Chicks, the Dan Solomons, the me's, the Dave Belays, the the Peter McGoffs. There's a variety, the George Farahs, all these, these different columnists, and they're all giving their opinion in their columns. And then, but now you can go and every, Billy Bumfuck from, East Milwaukee is just giving his opinion as absolute fact, and he's stating it with real compassion, and he's having a go at anyone that disagrees with him. It's unfortunate now because it's all like a big murky shit soup. There's some nuggets in there. There's some nice chicken nuggets in there, but there's also a lot of floating turds.
Oh, God.
So, and it's like a blended load of shit and gold.
Shit stew, I think, would be the
shit. That's what bodybuilding media is now. It's a shit stew.
Wow.
There's some nutrients in there, but most of it is gonna give you a horrible disease. So, and unfortunately, it is starting to permeate because look at these bodybuilders. They've constantly got their phones in their hand, and they're just, and it doesn't. Not all of it is going to bounce off them. So it takes a real special kind of mindset. Honestly, now I think it's getting to the point now. I was thinking about this the other day, where I think now that all bodybuilders should have their social media handled. I just don't think it's even worth them engaging, because like I know, I won't mention names, but I know some pros that maybe 1 in 10 posts is actually written by them.
Okay.
And I think it's getting to the point now where I think everyone should be doing that, because the amount of crap, look what happened to Samson. Like Samson was Mr. Olympia, and if he'd have brought the same package, he would have absolutely held on to that title in the same condition that he was the year before. There's no way he would have lost that title. But instead, he allowed the condition. And I know 1 or 2 judges did say to him, mate, you need to improve your condition. Because that is something that could be better, because look at his physique. I mean, that physique there, forget about the conditioning. I find that very hard to critique, because the proportion, the balance, that there was no doubt that physique was the best physique on stage at the finals. I've got zero doubts there, because he ticks every single box. But I think now it's getting to that point where, it's just so. The thing is, there's so many idiots that say stuff with confidence. And there's too many YouTubers. There's too many people saying stuff as outrageous fact, and they've got the information to back it up. And it's all getting so hard. It's like social media now. I don't know what's real and what isn't nowadays. You've got filters. You've got AI. There's so much misleading. I find it very hard to work out what's fact and what isn't at the moment. It's and the thing is, bodybuilders aren't going to get off social media. It's just not happening. But I think they should I think there should be. I think for the good of them, I think it's it worked for back in Dorian and Ronnie's era. They didn't have social media. They picked up the magazines a couple of months later. They had their sort of their trusted people, and it worked for them. There was no noise, there was no distraction. But now, and also there's a lot of people out there, a lot of very resentful, angry, kind of shitty people that are really, it's like they really want to, it's like they wake up in the morning and think, right, Nick Walker, Samson, I'm going to ruin their day. I'm going to get inside their heads, because I think honestly, people now are very messed up. Yeah. And I sometimes, like I've had to literally just put my phone down and go, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with people? And I think bodybuilding it's worse than ever. Bodybuilding and like film critiques, like film critics and stuff, like it's getting worse, mate. It's getting really, really bad. And I don't know how. I do feel for the athletes, because at the end of the day, they're human beings. Yeah. To be honest, what Derek has been, I feel really bad for Derek. Actually, I really hope that Derek is spending very little time on his phone, because that guy achieved something pretty amazing last year. The 3 wins after losing Olympia. He stayed quiet. He just announced he was doing the Arnold Classic. He did that. He achieved it. What he did last year was absolutely phenomenal. And I feel really bad for the 95%. And the thing is, people just follow each other. There's like a mob mentality. They just pile on. And it's like very few people even want to step up and defend him, because then they'll get launched at. It's like when I mentioned thing about, I've said some stuff. I said a comment about Trump, because I said I said something really positive about Trump. Something he said, it was really funny. Yeah. And mate, it was going on for weeks. I had to start blocking people, and it's like people are just, it was so hateful. And I'm like, guys, I just made an off the cuff comment. I had a pro bodybuilder, like bloody. I won't mention his name, but he was like, I messaged him. I said, mate, what is going on? I'm just making an off-the-cuff comment. What's the problem? So anyway, sorry, mate, rant over.
Yeah, that was a rant. So let's move on. It's time for me to rant. Now, I understand that bodybuilding and PEDs go hand in hand. They've been a part of our sport for many, many decades. Mm-hmm. And I understand that people are curious. They have a curiosity to know, what do the pros use? How much? Which drugs? But it's gotten to the point where there are entire podcasts that almost entirely talk about drugs and nothing else. Instagram pages showing clips of those constantly. Here's this guy's stack, that guy's stack. And I'm not trying to downplay the role of drugs for 1 minute. They're definitely a key to the look that we see on these stages. But nobody even wants to talk about training anymore, nutrition anymore. It's just, and the people that are obsessed with drugs the most are the young guys who are just starting out. And a lot of them, they're going to duplicate if they see, okay, this is an example. I'm just pulling this out of my ass. I'm not saying Samson does this or anything. Let's say Samson says in an interview, which he wouldn't, I use 2 grams of tests, a gram of tren, a gram masteron. Of course. How many idiots are going to go, okay, that's my next cycle right there. And then I'm going to be Mr. Olympia by, maybe next year, maybe 2 years from now. But it's gotten to the point where I would love to see people just take the focus off it a little bit, just back off. I understand you're curious, but good, enough is enough.
I was just training with Matthew there from the Neuromuscle show, and we were doing some preacher curls. And we spoke about that, and we were talking about a volume and stuff. And I said, because he was rushed for time, so I said we basically just condensed the workout, dropped a couple of sets off a few exercises, and just sped it up. And he was saying that, because I said it was so bloody cold in the gym, I didn't really want to be in there for like a couple of hours training, Yeah. And we brought up the subject of like Lee Priest, and I said, and he said, oh, did you train with Lee? I said, yeah. I said it was a lot of sets. We did arms, we did back and arms. I said, it's just a set after set after set. I said probably at least double what I'm used to, and I'm not like a one set and done sort of trainer, Yeah. And I said back in those days, I said he actually considered it to be part of his job. I said he was big on training, big on eating, but he wasn't big on gear, And the thing is, like Jay Cutler, Dorian Yates, Lee Priest, 3 examples of bodybuilders that have never really been that drug orientated. They don't really see much importance in it. And I'm like chatting to Lee, like even from my own example, when I do the tours, when I do, I come into contact with a lot of pros. I spend like sometimes a week, 10 days with them, day in, day out. And I'll be honest, because I'm interested in every element of bodybuilding. I still don't really find that interesting a topic, because like people don't want to hear the truth. That's the problem. They don't want to hear the reality. Like, I mean, I was training 15 years before I competed. And by that point, I did kind of understand that it was a lot to do with genetics and how you respond to training, food, you know, I mean, you know, and yeah, so basically things like gear. So some bodybuilders are very drug orientated. Some people are very gear orientated, you know, and some bodybuilders like Jay Cutler talks more about food than he does about gear. Like he was saying, like I said, I just went for lunch there with Matthew as well beforehand. And I said, you know, Jay still said he doesn't really enjoy food even today. Like generally, he said, I don't have a favorite restaurant. I don't have a favorite meal. You know, you think about all the money Jay's got and all the nice places to eat he's got in Vegas. You'd think you'd be eating out 2-3 times a week in the best restaurants. And he said it doesn't really excite him. And he's kind of saddened by that, because the amount of food, because I said to Matthew, I said, you know, Jay said he spent $100,000 a year on food. Oof. I said, you know, like Ronnie was like, oh, I used to spend $20,000 a year on food. That was a lot for Ronnie. And you think about how big Ronnie was. Yeah. But like Jay, and also Jay was one of the first ones to talk about like grass-fed, organic, you know, the types of food. He was now everyone seems to want to know about the quality of their food, not just the quantity, especially with what's come out in the last few years about glyphosate and all these additives and all these crop spraying and, you know, all the crap that you've got in your food. So even if you think you're eating a clean diet, it's all the crap that goes into it and crap that goes with it, you know? Mm-hmm. Like I'm diabetic, and every time I go to America, I can try and eat as strict as I can. And my blood sugar, I actually get a bit ill every time I come to America. Oh, wow. Because it is to do with the quality of the foods. It's like they say you can go to Italy and you can eat pasta nonstop, and you it's like you don't seem to gain weight. You actually lose it because of the quality of the foods. You know, your McDonald's fries in Europe have 4 ingredients. In America, they have 11. It's the same. Wow. It's the same food on the same menu. So, but like Jay and stuff, like talking about like food. And then you get other guys that are very name me a body that's very guys like Wesley Vissers, Cuba Seelan, you know, very, very scientific about their training. John Jewett. Oh, yeah. John Jewett is like super scientific about his training. And then you get guys that you know, that's all they want to talk about is gear, and you know, and then sometimes you get guys that are all rounders and they pay interest to every I mean, like, okay, let's talk about Ronnie when he made that big jump up with Chad. I think the biggest thing that changed for him, I mean, obviously Chad bumped his gear up and changed it around a little bit, but I think that he said the first thing Ronnie always talks about, you know, that in the difference in his physique, the improvements in physique, the first thing he talks about, because he sees that as the most significant for his improvements that he made, is to do with the volume of food. You know, instead of 8 ounces of chicken, it was 12 ounces. Instead of 4 meals, it was 5-6 meals. Yeah. So yeah, it's but in terms of the obsession with drugs, I don't think it's ever going to end, sadly. But it seems to go in waves, though, Ron. Like I remember mid-90s, you know, these people started getting things like Newbane and stuff like that, which was devastating for bodybuilding. I remember British bodybuilding took a real dip because a lot of people got addicted to it, myself included. A lot of people got addicted to it, and then it seemed to be about high doses, and it wasn't about dieting. And I remember going to the British finals, and I remember I was at the British finals one year. It was around 2002, 2003, 4, or something like that. And I wouldn't even say that 1 in 10 bodybuilders were in condition, because it seemed to be the time when only people wanted to talk about, all the bodybuilders wanted to talk about was gear. And they thought the gear would get them in condition, more of this, more of that. Yeah. And then guys were turning up on stage at the British. Their physiques weren't getting any better. They were getting heavier, but they just looked big, bloated, shapeless, and they weren't in conditioning. And then it seems to just go in waves, basically, is my point.
So, you know, we both know, because we've been around forever. Oh, your shoulder. Genetics they're the primary factor. They're the most important thing in bodybuilding by a long shot. So to those of you who demand to know what the pros are using, and you're upset if they say they're not using the amounts you think they should be using to look that way, I say this to you: use all the massive, you know, this is horrible, and I'm not encouraging people to destroy their health, but if that's what you truly believe, that genetics are not that significant and high doses of drugs are, go ahead and use high doses of drugs for a year or two. Get back to me. let me know. Do you look like a pro? Do you look like you should be Mr. Olympia or on the Olympia stage or the Arnold Classic stage? And if not, I prove my point that genetics are far more important. As Dorian says, you could take a bag of shit and give it a bunch of drugs and make it a bigger bag of shit. And now you just have a bigger bag of shit. Yeah. So that's my thing.
It's like the argument I have with heavy androgens or things like insulin. Yeah, it'll make the scale go up, but it'll fill the muscle, but will it build the muscle? Yeah. That's why sometimes, I remember the first big natural show I went to, and I saw one of the top natural bodybuilders. He was a judge. I remember seeing him in a polo shirt, and this guy was like the Flex Wheeler of the natural bodybuilding. I remember looking at his shirt and going, "That's not so and so." I was like, "He's not tiny, but like this guy looked like a giant on stage." And then you find out he's like 180 on stage, and it's like because they had nice muscle bellies and the muscles were developed, but they weren't huge. They weren't inflated muscles.
Right.
And sometimes that's why. So I remember, I just remember looking at that and thinking, these guys aren't using anything, but it's because they're training. And the thing is, I always found that they paid more attention to their training. Like I remember, I used to work with he was like a nationally ranked natural bodybuilder. I mean, the guy would squat 5 plates on his lunchtime. And good reps. And he was like my body weight. I mean, I got to like 4.5 with gear, at my peak. But like this, and they used to keep everything logs, and they were very scientific. They weren't throwing the weights around. It was all very scientific and real sort of applied effort and research and stuff like that. Because, and then sometimes you get like a guy that's a complete all-rounder that, like a John Jewett, really, like the training, the nutrition, the gear, everything's meticulously planned. To be honest, I find guys like that really fascinating because, like say Tom Platt, all he ever seems to want to talk about is training and the importance of intensity. You never really hear him talk much about diet or drugs. It's like he's not really interested in it. It was like it wasn't as important. That's why it's important, I think, to read and follow all these bodybuilders and because they've all got because the thing is, and sometimes when say there's 5 elements and they're paying attention to 3, and then the other 2 get more attention to, and then everything just seems to fall into place. Or like say like Kai Green, Ronnie Coleman. These were guys that really took their physiques to an incredible level without gear. And then when they put the gear in, they just. I remember Rodney St. Cloud. I was in Norway as a show over there, and he was. I think it was 2006, 2007, maybe 2007. And he said, Giles, he says, Kai, he said he's just started using gear. He said, it must be about, and he said he's walking around with a little wheelie suitcase full of egg whites. He said he's stinking the gym out because he's eating so much food. And there's a guy that was training hard, training for years and years, took his physique to as far as he could naturally. And then he took in gear and he added a lot more food and his physique just exploded overnight. And that's probably one of the best ways to do it. Like Ronnie said he didn't. I remember Ronnie. He took Anavar and Winstrol. I think was the first year in '95. I think it was
95. I think, yeah. I
was in the car with him, and he said, "I said, what were you taking?" He said, "I just took some tablets, took some few Anavar, 20 mg or something. It was something ridiculous. I mean, I've heard of like bloody bikini girls taking more." Yeah. And he said, "I put like 30 pounds on." I'm like, it was probably more than that. It was probably 30 pounds in a week. But it's the thing is, like I've seen people. I remember I got some years ago. One of my training partners, and I got him some Finaplex. It was the veterinary trend, and I got him some D-bol or something, and I put him on 1 mil a week of it and 5 D-bol or something, and he put like 30 pounds on. And it was just like, you motherfucker. I said, I'm like, how are you putting that much muscle on? Because he said, well, I'm just eating like hell and I'm training hard, and he's benching 4 plates and, and it's like, I was almost like, holding his doses back so he wouldn't overtake me, but
should have given him some Skittles instead of D-ball and said, here you go.
Yeah. And he was, and the thing is he'd be out drinking all weekend because he used to pass out on my bedroom floor and I have to drag him and put him to bed and stuff. And then he'd be, go and get cooked breakfast, and I'd be eating my oats and in water and my egg whites and stuff like that the next morning, and he's barely awake, and then Monday he's at the gym smashing it and twice the size of me, and it's an interesting game, bodybuilding, but there's many different elements, and that's what I kind of like about it as well, because it's constant learning. And this is the difference between the amateurs, the pros, the top pros, and the top pros, is that once they start doing everything right at the right time, and they get the right guidance, and they apply that mindset, that's when the magic really starts to happen. And that's why there are literally so many levels to this game.
Yeah. All right, now this is one you didn't seem too excited to talk about. So, but gym women, for those of you who follow Joey Swole, that's the best Instagram page to see recaps of this. It's been a trend on TikTok for the last at least 2 or 3 years, maybe longer, where women will film a man across the gym who appears to like be looking at them or looking in their direction or something, and they'll say, "This creep, he was staring at me," or "He was working out too close to me," or "How dare he? Why couldn't he just go, use a treadmill? Why do you have to use the treadmill next to me?" Which, yeah, if there was a bunch of them, I get it. But it's a whole trend where women are like, "Oh, these men, they won't leave me alone." And meanwhile, of course, most of them are dressing. They'll say it's for comfort, but they're dressing just with a little sports bra and shorts where you could see the bottom of their butt cheek. And, I love the female form, so I'm all for it. But you can't expect to dress like that. And men are visual creatures. We're visually driven. We can't help but look. Now, you can stop yourself from staring, but you can't ever not glance in someone's direction. If you're a man and there's a beautiful woman with a great body and she's half naked, it's very hard to not at least glance over every once in a while. But I don't think it's going to stop, because they get a lot of attention and validation when they put a post up like that of these gym creeps and weirdos, and these, especially if it's a younger woman and the guy's older, which, me being an old man, I have to really be careful when I'm at the gym, blinders, because I don't ever want to be that guy where they say, "Oh, that creepy old guy is staring at me." So I know this doesn't seem to concern you too much, but I don't know, as a trend, does it bother you that women have basically created this whole genre of content where they just shame men on social media?
It's not just women, but I just hate the fact that phones are even allowed in gyms. I mean, it's almost, I don't know, if I had a gym, I'd say no, either no phones on the gym floor, which means I probably have no members, but also, or maybe have only allowed phones where you have to swap it for a phone that is a clone of yours. It has your number, but has no camera on it. It's just the fact that any sort of filming is allowed in the gym now. In fact, I told 2 or 3 hours ago, Matthew, I actually told him off because he had his phone in him. And I said, "Mate, that's really starting to bug me." And he actually went and put halfway through the workout and made him go back to his gym bag and put his phone in the gym bag. Because I was like, and I said, look around, Matthew. And mine's a pretty hardcore gym. And looked around and everyone was on the phone. I said, "I bet you 4 out of those 5 people aren't even using it for music. They're just scrolling on freaking Instagram." I mean, it's a whole other subject. It's just about people wanting attention, wanting views, but using a sacred space like the gym, for me, is absolutely, it's one of the saddest things of modern society. I think it's a reason why the cinemas are now, everyone's just basically streaming everything on their phones on their TVs at home. Because to be honest, I don't even like going to the cinema anymore, because people just getting their phones out, they're checking social media, and to be honest, it ruins the whole experience. And it's the same with gyms now. I'm finding it more and more difficult, because Matthew again was taking the mick at me because I've got the iPod Nano. And for me, it's still cutting edge technology, because I've got all my music on there and I use it. I like training on it. Yeah. I like, because usually I train at nighttime on a Friday night, because I just trained arms with him there. Yeah. And I talked about how I said, the girl at the counter, I said, sometimes when I finish training, I said, I'll go back and she'll be smirking or laughing, because right in front of her, all the cameras. Yeah. And sometimes I'll go over, because sometimes it's just me in there, at that time of night, because everyone usually trains 6, 7 because they want to, do what they need to do on a Friday night. And I like to train there because there's no people. So, and she's like, I said, was I dancing and singing again and pulling faces and stuff? She says, yeah. But so specifically, I'm training at certain times to avoid people. But the whole, I can't believe it was a few years ago, I told you that gym in my area, but there's a chain of them. And one of the gym rules on one of their videos playing on one of the screens was no eye contact, no deliberate eye contact with women.
Wow.
And I laughed. I thought it was a joke. And I'm like, what? So now, like say that, I mean, there are some women in my gym, and thing is, a lot of teenage girls and stuff like that. So I literally, if they're training, and some of them like training, like their arse cheeks are hanging out the shorts, and you're thinking, I mean, she could be 25, she could be 15. So literally, I have it now where I will literally turn, even if the wall is like there, I will turn and stare at the wall.
No.
I mean, I'm usually fanning around on my iPod Nano or, finding this next track or something like that. So I'm not really someone who stands and gazes, and I'm not stood around for 10 minutes wasting time sort of, scanning the room. I'm not really that sociable when I'm at the gym. After training, I am, but like with women now, it's oh God, and it's not really a problem, but I can see why. I can see that out there at certain types of gyms. I bet it's quite a problem actually, because like I think that would be, I would hate someone to say something or accidentally catch somebody's eye and then they get, no, to be honest, I don't think in my type of gym where I train, it's not really an issue, but I can imagine it is. And I'd hate to train in those sort of gyms. In fact, that's the sort of time, I think that's when I would actually find out the quietest times and then train then, because busy gyms now, I mean, sound like an absolute nightmare. For me, it's a sacred place of solitude and focus, and it is an hour to get away from my phone, because I mean, oh my God, when you get the reminders that tell you spent 6 hours, 32 minutes on your phone yesterday, it tells you. I hate that alert. It really makes me realize what a loser I am, because I'm spending so much time on my phone. I'm trying to justify it. It's like, no, I'm researching. I'm doing what I need to do. And, I don't know how to fix it, but shaming men on TikTok, I've never been in that position where someone has actually, I don't know, the whole Joey Swole thing, I don't follow all that. And those kind of gyms I don't train in anyway. So for me, it's not really, I'm glad it's not an issue. I think that's probably why I love my gym so much. And when I train other places, I'm quite picky about, and I will, and like I said, if there are women in the gym and they are close, I just literally turn my back on them. I mean, I physically turn my back on them where I literally am staring at a wall, just purely to avoid any sort of situation. Because you've got to be careful. You have to be mindful. Because the thing is, I don't want to be mindful of anything when I'm in the gym apart from my training and myself. I don't want to be interacting. I don't want to be, and I'm not single, so I'm not looking to, catch someone's eye, I mean, I've never met anyone through the gym. It's always been, I have, one or two years ago. Well, I wouldn't say relationships, but not.
Well, I met my wife in the gym, 1989. So
did you? Oh, okay, yeah, cool. Well, there you go. But gyms were a different sort of place back then, mate.
I was working there, and she was a member. But I'm going to move on to one that's going to trigger so many of you out there. Accept the judge's decisions, even if you disagree. I know a lot of you are going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. No. So again, you don't have to agree. It's a subjective sport. It's judged more like a beauty pageant than it is anything else. It's not cut and dried like soccer, football, baseball, basketball. It's something where judges have to sit there and evaluate and assess what they're looking at and make the best decisions they can based on the criteria that they're looking at. And we almost never have a contest where everyone agrees with, let's say, the top 5 placings in order. People are always going to be either upset about who won, or so-and-so should have been second instead of third, or, So I don't know. How do we get people to accept the judge's decisions? Because it's something a lot of people, we see this when we're doing contest coverage, or especially the day after or the few days after any big show. There's a lot of people who are upset at the decisions.
Is it as bad as it used to be? Because I don't think it is.
Really? I mean,
yeah, no, I don't know. I think because basically I'm more involved with international pro than rather than all the other federations, all the amateur federations. I'm not as involved, or as I don't go to as many as those as I used to. It's not because they like the national scene the amateur scene in the UK used to be huge. Used to have the main UKBFF, the pro league type side, and then you'd have NABA and all these other federations, all the independent shows, and then things kind of changed and splintered off. And I'm not as involved with the amateur scene as I used to be, and I think that's probably why I've noticed a change. because the pros are more. I think they know as well. Plus, yeah, but I know that it's not as good a look. It's not a good look for them to be complaining about. I can't remember the last time I heard a pro complain about a placing they got online. I can't even remember the last time I saw that. What about you?
Well, Sarah and Natalia was a big one.
Oh shit, yeah, but that was I suppose that was a but that wasn't about a place. That wasn't about a placing. That was about what gave her that placing that she feels was an unfair advantage. Correct?
Yeah. So I guess I should have couched this in a different way. I'm really targeting this more toward the fans, not the athletes complaining about the placings. It's the fans who, like Nick Walker. Nick Walker should have won the Pittsburgh Pro. That was all we heard for about a month after the Pittsburgh Pro.
True.
Now he could have won, and you could have argued for his win. Of course, it was that close where either one of them could have won. But at the end of the day, you have to accept the judges and what they decided. Even if you think they made the wrong call, they're doing the best they can. I don't think these decisions they make are politically motivated, sponsor driven, or anything like they were a lot. That was very, very common years ago. I think the judges are much more fair and impartial now. And when Hadi lost the Olympia, it's because he's a Muslim. It's because he's from Iran. We were all hearing that. That's why they love Derek. It's because he's American, and Hadi's not American. I'm like, but Hadi won before, and Rami won twice. And they're both from these other countries, and they're Muslims. I go, wow, they have no comeback for that. But I'm just saying the judges do the best they can. I don't always agree with all the decisions either. You don't. But at the end of the day, they're the judges, and this is how the sport is. It's judged by judges. That's how we have our outcomes and our results.
It's a subjective sport. It's a visual sport. There's so many, even with the 202, the 212, taking the shorter guys into their own category and giving them their own platform. You got the more aesthetic, lighter guys given the classic. So now, like sometimes think, some open lineups aren't getting very big numbers. But if you didn't have classic, if you didn't have 212, all those 212s and all those classics would all be competing. And they'd all be probably not making top 15. Remember the old Night of Champions results? And you'd see 48 competitors, and you'd recognize maybe 10 of the names, and the rest would be like, who the hell are these guys? And it'd be the same guys not placing, And those guys not placing, so those 33 guys not making the top 15 would most likely be filling up the classic, and the shorter guys would be the top 5 in the 212. So there is actually more people than ever. I mean, here's actually a really good example of a show where you've actually got 4 very similar styles of physiques. They're all 5'4" to 5'8". Yeah. There's nobody over 5'9" there, nowhere near it.
Nope.
So you've got 4 sort of shorter open guys. So this is a really bad example actually of. Let's take the Olympia. You've got Andrew Jack next to Hadi. I mean, you couldn't get 2 more different types of physiques.
True.
And then you've got Samson, who's he's way too big for classic, but he kind of has classic lines. But it's more of a mixed bag in most shows. But this one is, like I said, is not a very good example.
My bad example. I couldn't find the other one.
Yeah. No, but judges' decisions, I suppose it's never going to change because it's everyone knows better. And honestly, I'm so glad that I tried judging independent shows and different shows over the decades, and I was a guest judge and I've been a head judge, and and to be honest, I can't explain it until you actually do it yourself. It's really hard to explain how different it is from being sat in the audience. Like I've said many times, when you're at a show, you and me disagree about the 4th and 5th, saying it should have been the other way around, and 95% of people agree. But what about the top 3? Maybe, so because you've got to place everyone. You can't just focus on, Brett Wilkin complained about me focusing only on, when I was doing the live stream commentary, he commented that I was only focusing on the sort of how bad I felt that Keon wasn't getting a proper look in because he was just left on the right. And he said, well, why isn't he talking about the top 2 guys, the Samson and Martin? Right. And it's like, because I was really, really sort of focused on that one competitor. And for that and probably for majority of the time that I was commentating, I was focusing on that one guy because I felt like it was really, I felt like it was quite a, for me, it seemed quite an obvious thing that he deserved a better look. So I kind of get what Brett's comment was, because I probably did zero in too much. But if I was judging, I'm like, oh, why is, and I was focusing about Keon being left on the right-hand side. He's, this is why I probably wouldn't be a good judge, because you can't be wasting time on one guy that you feel should be, in a much different position. You've got to focus on first, second, third, fourth, right up to like the top 15. So, because I tell you what, the thing about judging is the speed. It's the speed that gets me. God, look at bloody Andrew there. Yeah. Wow. Sorry. Yeah.
How's the Arnold?
Sorry, I'll get distracted. Yeah, it's funny how the physiques change so much, isn't it? All three of them, the physiques have.
And that was the same. That was within the same year.
Yeah.
Part of the 25 season.
I really don't like Andrew's side tricep. I feel like he's getting his side chest a bit better now, but his side tricep is that's a really awkward pose for him.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's the one. The side chest and side tris are the two. I'm like,
but sorry, Ron. Going back to what you're saying about the accepting the judge decisions, I think one of the most fun, engaging, interesting parts of being a bodybuilding fan is not accepting the judge's decisions, because we like to debate it, and that's why I like it. The fact we have social media. But to be honest, I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. I think it's good to disagree.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm like, like sometimes we make our predictions and the predictions end up being 95% correct. It kind of it doesn't really get me excited, because I like to sometimes have, we
both love to be surprised. That's the best thing.
Look, the amount of people that have said to me that Andrew Jack should have won the Olympia. I mean, Brian Bowman was the first one, and I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, he should have won. And I'm like, okay, well, it was the first time I'd heard it, and it was news to me, because I was watching the live stream, and I was like, okay, I think I'll got Andrew a solid third here. But then you hear it more and more, and then you discuss it more and more with different people. They give their reasons why, you give your reasons why. Yeah. And to be honest, I think it's the fun part. It's like when people go to a football game and then they go to the pub afterwards, and they're just basically arguing and shouting and screaming and talking about certain parts, and like that's the whole joy of following bodybuilding, is the fact that you can have so many different perspectives, especially when you've got Martin and Samson at the Prague show. Yeah. Like at the pre-judging, I literally it's changing my mind every 2 minutes. I'm going, oh, Martin, oh, Samson, and then you're giving your reasons why Samson should get the nod, and then you're giving your reasons why Martin should get the nod, and then a few hours later they come back and the physiques look different. One's got better, one's got worse, And God, he pulled that up quick. It's I don't know. It's what makes it fun. And as long as that's the thing, you should be able to disagree and have debate. It's just when people get personal, rude, and they start calling each other names. That's when to be honest, that's when I disconnect, because I love debating bodybuilding. I love the fact that you could say, "Oh, Giles, I had Samson winning this," and I'm like, "No, I've got Martin winning this one." So what about Chryso's kind of looking good here? Could he have beaten Samson? Could he have? To me, it's what makes. Look, I mean, Chryso's good, man. Yeah. Sorry, I get so distracted. Sorry, but I got to say though, I think the way Martin held his peak over 2 days, like I said, that Ildiko, she made a comment about it when we spoke in Prague. I've never seen anyone. I've been trying. Do you know what? Try and get Stefan for an interview. And if you do get him for an interview, ask him how he managed to get, because like I said, Ildiko, very experienced judge, she actually commented to me, we're at the hotel, she says, I've never seen, in all the shows I judge, all these 2-day shows, all these pro shows, I've never seen, and I still don't know how he managed to hold his peak so well over 2 days, because he didn't get worse or better on the second day, he looked as good. And that in itself is pretty incredible. So, because like some bodybuilders can change drastically over 2 days. Remember how, like Phil used to look so much better on the second day because and I love to hear about what the strategy was for achieving that and attaining that, because it's like sometimes, you've got bodybuilders that say, oh, I really need to peak for prejudging because I've got to make a good impression against this guy. Or no, I know I'm probably going to win even if I'm at 8%. So I need to peak for the second day when I know that they're going to be dropping off. And that's when I need to really nail it down. I mean, Behruz, I mean, God, that Romania in 22 from the prejudging. I mean, the prejudging, he looked good, and it was close between him and Brett Wilkin. And then at the night show, a few hours later, I was messaging Milos. I said, Milos, how on earth did you manage that? Because, you know, you needed to pull ahead to kind of separate him from Brett, because it was close. It could have gone either way, but somehow you managed to just pull ahead. How did you do it? And what was the game plan? Because I find that sort of stuff very interesting.
Interesting. All right. Well, guys, I know a lot of you are going to probably lean more towards what Giles was saying. You don't have to accept it as it. Give me a comment, drop some comments, and they can be angry and whatever. Comments are good for me. So please drop a comment about that.
It's good.
And here's another one, you guys.
Good for your health. Good for your health.
They will not agree with this. A lot of you are going to say, no, no, no. I'm not going to respect the Mr. Olympia title. I'm not going to respect the winner. And I think Derek Lunsford is probably the most disrespected Olympia winner in recent history. They've all had their fair amount of criticism, and disrespect. But I think Derek, it seems to me like he's gotten the brunt of it. Maybe it's because social media is so much bigger now, and we have so many more of these casual fans.
There's more arseholes in the world. Yeah. It's true. No, seriously, there's more idiots talking shit, and there's no consequence. I don't know what it is, Ron, but like, I feel so, like I said earlier on in this episode, like I feel that I hope Derek doesn't go on his phone because sometimes it's funny. I saw a video of him in his kitchen, and he's at the kitchen table and he's reading the Bible. You know, he's a religious man. I respect it. I'm not a religious person, but I respect the fact that that's what he believes. That's what he follows. That's what gives him structure and purpose and guidance and direction in life, and, you know, and everything else. It's shaped his personality. It's shaped who he is, and he's become the best in the world. So, you know, there's obviously, that's who he is. That's part of him. We should respect that. But I have never, ever, I do find it quite upsetting for Derek to see just how far people go, because I think it's pretty disgusting, to be honest. You know, and there's so many experts saying, oh, he's got this in his arms, he's got that in his this here. And it's like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You've probably never stepped on stage. You know, you're just parroting what other idiots have put. You're just an online expert that I don't know. It's just it's out of control, Ron. And to be honest, it's not that it's spoiling following bodybuilding or following. It's just wrong. It's just wrong, Ron. I feel bad for Derek. I really do. And to be honest, I wonder how he manages to deal with this, because he should be, you know, he's not doing the Arnold, so he's got a second baby on the way. He's kind of achieved the dream that took years to get to. He's built an incredible physique. He's never done anything really bad to anyone. He's not known to be, you know, I've never heard any sort of problem where he's been disgusting to fans, or he's been rude, or he's been a brat, or he's always polite. He's always friendly. I think he's given me many, many interviews, and he's always been very, very honest, generous, and decent to deal with. Very polite. I've got messages on my phone. He's always very polite to deal with. And I just feel like it's pretty shitty, actually, that our number one, because at the end of the day, what it comes down to, I think the one factor is that we're in an era where there is no dominant champion. There is no Phil Heath. There is no Dorian. There is no Ronnie. So you have got, like I said, you're probably going to get the title changed many hands. It could go to Andrew Jack this year. It could go back to Samson. Martin could get it. Hadi could get it. Derek could win again. But there's like sort of 5, 6, 7 people that could basically swap the title back and forth for the next 3 to 5 years, until we see someone that is going to be like oh shit, we've got another Ronnie Coleman on our hands. We've got another peak Phil Heath on our hands. And I just don't see that happening. So I think it's okay. So you didn't like Derek winning because of this, and this. Fair enough. Well, what about Hadi? Well, there's this, and this about his physique that some don't like. Andrew has holes in his physique that he's yet to fill. Samson, you know, obviously, you know, his prep went wrong, and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I think Samson actually has the least amount of, all he has to do is, that's why I'm saying he could have won last year if he'd have just played exactly the same game plan. But I do respect him for trying something different. But my point is, they've all got their own strengths and weaknesses. And literally, it is a case of, like someone was saying, oh, could Nick Walker win the Arnold Classic? Of course he could. If others coming off, he comes in bang on, you know, the judges are going to look at it, weigh up the negatives and positives, and they're going to make their decision. Of course he could win it. You know, statistically, if you look at for the Arnold Classic, the Olympia, it's more than likely that if those guys all kind of come in with the same strengths and weaknesses and the same sort of condition, he's probably going to be third or fourth. But, you know, things could change and it could go any other way. And in some ways, I think maybe, you know, people complain when same guys keep winning over and over again, or they're winning, you know, as soon as they walk out, you know, it's like, oh shit, well, it's obviously he's going to win. It's a fight for second place. So people complain about that. So, you know, it's just one of those situations where you know, you could look at it from a positive or a negative. If you look from a positive, you can say, okay, well, it's likely that he's going to win again. So,
but to wrap it up, respecting Mr. Olympia title, to me, it's kind of like respecting the president. A lot of people hate my president, Donald Trump. They hate him, but you know what? He's our president. Whether you love him or hate him, you have to respect the title. This is the president. This is the person leading our country. Drop a comment. I know a lot of you hate Trump. It's fine, but
I love him.
Yeah, I like what he's doing. But for people to say our Mr. Olympia champion sucks, he's the worst Mr. Olympia ever, it's not fair, and it's not respectful of what he's done, how hard he's worked, the integrity of his character. He gave me an interview. Does he have to give a guy with 11,000 subscribers on his channel an interview? No, of course not. And he did. He did it. So, you know, I wish Derek nothing but the best, and I hope people would respect him. So
me too.
Let's wrap it up with something kind of similar. This is the last thing I want to talk about. Can't we all just get along? We are such a little tight-knit group. We are a niche sport. There's not many people in this world who give a rat's ass about bodybuilding. They look at us as steroid freaks. Who cares about these guys in thongs? It's gay. It's this. It's that. It's pure vanity, narcissism. So everyone else, most of the world already doesn't like us and doesn't understand us and appreciate what it is that we do and why we follow this so-called sport, which they don't see as a sport. But then when I see us fighting amongst ourselves and, you know, trying to assassinate each other's characters and ruin each other, I know we can't all, human nature, we can't all get along. There's always going to be disagreements and people that have their issues with each other. But I wish we would just all try to make a little more of an effort to embrace the fact that we are this little weird brotherhood, this fraternity, and we should try to get along, because at the end of the day, we have a lot more in common with each other than not in common.
I see bodybuilding as one big dysfunctional normal, as you could, because like define normal. All families are dysfunctional. Everyone's like, how many people have you heard say, "Oh, my family is so weird," and this and that, and then you hear stories about this auntie and that uncle and that, and it's like, no, you're perfectly, in terms of normality, all families are like that, and the ones that aren't just keep it well hidden. Yeah, you know, they're just quiet about it. You know, it's to me, it's what, like, I've clashed with so many people. I've fallen out with so many people. You know, I've made up with different people. It's like, it's just, it's kind of like where I feel I belong. That's why when stuff like has happened this year with a couple of instances, it really affects me, because it's like I sometimes start to feel like, do people really, am I welcome here in this industry anymore, in this family, in this world? Do I have a place anymore? Do I bring any value? Am I appreciated? You know, and that's why I keep moving on to all these different types of projects, the tours and the stuff like this. You know, a couple of times I've thought, do I just need to just walk away from all this kind of stuff, this YouTubing and stuff like this? And to be honest, I always come back round and I always get back into it. You know, I mean, back in April when the whole meat loss thing happened, there was a few weeks where I didn't really want to show up for this. I just thought, I think maybe this is my sign and my time to just move on and, you know, and just look into other interests, other projects and stuff like that. But something keeps pulling me back, as it has for because this is 31 years now. 1995 is when I started as a photographer. Then I was a writer, reporter. the supplement business, judge, competitor, bloody what else? Bloody websites,
everything.
Everything. I've done everything. The tour manager, show promoter, fucking everything you can think of.
Now I'm trying to think of what have you not done in the industry?
MC. No, seriously, I would struggle to find any jobs. I've been like a co-editor. I've helped with layouts. I mean, supplement designs. I mean, everything. And it's like, and that's why I keep moving on into all the different things. It's like the podcasting, the everything, the studio stuff. It's and now like with the tours, it makes me living, and also I get a real sense of satisfaction from it. I get real, it's like there's something really getting those people and connecting with the fans. It's what it's like my brain visually records things, and I have memories in my head where I'm going, that was worth it. That made it all that stress worthwhile, and seeing the happy faces and people being inspired and comments, and it's and also like with the magazine work and stuff like that, seeing. So then sometimes when it's not appreciated or someone gets upset with me, it really upsets me, because I'm like, my intent, or they get my intent wrong. If they get my intent wrong, I'm devastated. It really upsets me. It really actually gets to me, and it makes me really question deeply about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, my purpose, my drive for wanting to do this. And I'm always waiting for that time where the industry's saying, "Thanks, Giles, you've given enough. Bugger off." So,
I think the industry still needs you. You still have a valuable place and function. And I'd be very upset if you weren't part of this industry anymore, not just because we're friends, but I think you bring something. There's not many of us who have been part of it as long as we have. There are some that have even been longer, but, we're still that connection to the old days. And I think you need that to bridge that with the current era to have that full perspective. So I'd be very, very upset if you ever walked away from this, Giles.
Thank you, Ron. And I think what it comes down to, it's very, very simple. It comes down to intent. That's when my intent gets questioned. That's when I go on high alert, because then I feel like I have to try and correct and prove and explain myself, and and it's like stuff with me, like when it was all being shouted and screamed down, and it's like, and you're repeating yourself over and over again, and you're being you are being 100% truthful, and someone's not accepting it, and they're saying no. It's stuff like that. Honestly, it really, really it affects me deeply. So, but then, and then you go on a tour, and then you go on a tour with Terence Ruffin, and you see all these, and it's the joy and the happiness and the kind of the positivity that you're generating, and, and the claps from people, when they walk into the room, and, it's kind of, it is all worthwhile, and you do a good power hour, and you think, yeah, we got some good discussions going there. And, we really, and then you see the comments and people are responding positively. It just straight away, then it flips 180, and you're thinking, yeah, I'm doing the right thing, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because for me, it's all about intent and making a contribution. If I feel like my intent is good and that comes across and people understand that and they believe it, and I'm making a contribution, then all the good stuff comes along with it, and it's worth continuing with. So it's basically it's no more that simple. But as you're talking for infighting, you can't stop it. It's like I said, it's like a dysfunctional family. Your family's your family. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't matter whether you love one minute and you say you love them one minute, you hate them the next. It is what it is. It's humans. We're humans. It's human nature. We're all complex, messed up individuals, and we're all just trying to make our way in the world, and we're doing our best, and and that's it, really. It's nothing. I try to only worry about things I can control, and sometimes, certainly, other people's behavior and responses to things. So unfortunately, sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. You can only do your best, and do it with good intent, do it with good heart, and whatever else happens in response to that, nothing you can do about it.
Well, I can't add anything better than that. So that's a perfect place to close it out. So thank you, Giles. And thanks everyone for watching this episode of Power Hour. Drop some comments below. I know you didn't agree with everything we said. So I welcome your critiques, your comments, good and bad. It's all helpful. Thanks to Giles, Tiger Thomas, as always, for providing the perfect co-host to the Power Hour. And we'll see you right here next time.